In this video, we're going to be looking at how you can use a custom get user membership script in conjunction with either a custom authentication script or using an ESA supported card authentication platform such as CAP or Equitrack. So here in Process Designer we have a basic configuration. It's not really set up to do anything, just to demonstrate the authentication methods. We are using a default group and 4 basic forms: scan to email, scan to Fortis, scan to home, and scan to SharePoint. Each one of these is using a restrict access capability, in this case to a particular group, such as our mobile users, domain admins, or in the case of Fortis, a map group. In our authentication tab, we're actually going to be using a script. It's a very simple script just to demonstrate this scenario. You can see that all we're doing here is just saying if it matches a particular username and a particular password to authenticate, if it's not one of these 3 people, authentication should be false or should be rejected. In the case of the card authentication, you wouldn't be using authentication at all. You would select none, but you can still use the restricted access user membership script. Now this one can be basic as well, and this one's actually part of our standard federal configuration. What we're doing here is a basic function call, get user memberships. Essentially all this is going to be doing is looking into your Active Directory structure at the member of attribute and seeing who the individual user is actually a member of. In other words, which groups are they a part of. It's going to be looking at any of the groups assigned outside of domain users that actual individual user is going to be a portion of. So in the top portion of the script, we're going to identify a couple of variables. One is authentication mode, and this is just really a variable that we're using to make this script work across either a Windows authentication or if we were to use a card access platform. In this case with Ricoh, we're looking at CAP, which provides us with different user variables. So rather than using the username, as we can see below here when we're looking at the authentication mode, we're going to use the username variable. In CAP, what we do is use the user ID. That's the several digit identifier that comes across from the card itself. And we'll use that as an identifier. And depending on which one we use, we actually marry that value up to a separate attribute, either SAM account name most usually in the case of Windows authentication, or most commonly in user ID is going to match up to a user principal name in Active Directory. But either one of those can be particular to an end user's environment. They may not match up to those particular attributes. It may be something like common name, or in some cases you may get the display name and not the user ID. So those couple of attributes may actually change in your individual deployments. Now below, similar to what you would do in an ODBC connection, we're just going to create a connection into Active Directory into the LDAP server. Here we're just specifying the connection parameters. We're going to say get the base LDAP string. So once that resolves, we're going to do a simple statement that says if my authentication mode equals Windows, then we're going to perform this query, selecting the mail, the name, and the member of attribute from our LDAP string, where an individual person equals a particular value that we got from the card, so in this case the username, or below when we're matching it up against a CAP attribute, we're going to be looking at the user principal name. Again, you could change either one of these attributes in the query to match up to your particular environment, should these particular values not mirror the values that you're getting either from the card or from the panel of the device. Once we perform that query, we're expecting to get back a concatenated list of all the groups that that user is a member of. So what we're going to be seeing is CN equals a particular value and then a comma. And this portion of the script, what it's doing is just splitting up those values. It's saying take each individual portion of that list that we return, that array, and split it up. So we're going to be taking it out, getting rid of um, the CN equals and keeping only the second half of that. So each individual section, we're going to see that we return just the second value, which is going to be the actual group itself. And then we're going to create that into a comma delimited list, and we're going to push that all into a value called get user memberships. So we're going to say get user memberships equals our member of value. What that enables us to be able to do is use the restricted access settings on each of our individual forms. So when we look at one of our forms, we can check off this box and just select a group based on that script that we're running. So that when we go to the panel of a device, I'm going to pull up the emulator here, we can log in. I'm going to use the 3 different logins just to demonstrate how the forms come back based on a user's membership. So first, we'll use our RMAP login. We'll see that when we authenticate with that user, we only get one button back, the Scan to Fortis button. Now if we switch users using the login logout button, we can authenticate as another user that has separate group memberships. And we're going to see they don't have access to the Scan to Fortis, but they do have 2 other buttons, Scan to Email and Scan to Home. Lastly, we'll go ahead and look at a third membership. This user is the domain admin, so they're going to see a third button, Scan to SharePoint. So this has been a quick tutorial on how to use a get membership script within the Ricoh ESA component and use that in conjunction with our restrict access on the individual forms and menus to be able to personalize a user's experience at the panel of a Ricoh device.